Hi, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. This is Her Story, hosted by yours truly, Ashya. For some of you here right now, it might either be some rainy season, or for others, maybe a little breeze of cool air here and there, or maybe a blanket of snow out your window. Either way, today just feels so nice. I can't tell if it's the breeze or maybe the fact that the rainy season is just so comforting, at least to me. But let me tell you, over here where I live, it is so rainy. I mean, today it was a bit sunny, which I'm thankful for, but it was so rainy these past few days. And honestly, today just feels so good because the rainy season finally passed today. Well, I don't think it passed, but today there was no rain and I just felt so good. And because today's such a good day, I'm so nervous because this is my first time filming like an actual podcast talking straight to a mic, and I just feel so giddy about it. So if I'm talking too fast or if my voice is trembling, you guys please do comment down below because I will be reading your comments and taking your advice. Thank you so much. And again, since this is my first episode of this podcast, hello and welcome once again to Her Story. I decided to make this podcast because if you know me in real life, you know that I'm the biggest chatterbox in history. Like, I cannot go a day without sharing my innermost thoughts and feelings with like anybody in general. All my friends are like so sick of it, especially my family as well. They're so sick of it. And I just finally got to record and film something where I could share my feelings with an actual audience who I feel like cares, you know? I'm so happy I finally got to do this, and I'm so grateful. For this first episode, I just wanted to chat a little bit about girlhood. Well, my entire premise of the podcast is girlhood, and talking about what makes girlhood so special to us. As a girl, I feel like I'm constantly expected to stay quiet and keep my feelings to myself, so I never really got to share them a lot. So, this podcast will be mostly an episode of discussion. And if you guys want to keep your opinions to yourself, you can do that, but you're free to comment down below to give your own opinion. To get started, I wanted to choose a topic where you guys can discuss and share your thoughts. So, once again, share your thoughts in the comments down below. So, today I wanted to chat a little bit about identity, or maybe just finding your identity. You know, because I do feel like that, especially when you're still a teenager, it's very difficult to find who you are as a person because puberty is the age where you're finding yourself, finding who you are as a person. In this age where everybody wants to fit in and everyone wants to fit a certain type of standard to be able to be accepted in a certain community, it's so difficult to find your own personality or your own identity because you have to constantly be interdependent with others to determine your own feelings. And obviously, as humans, we are allowed to feel interdependency because that's just how we live. However, if you are struggling to find your own personality because of that interdependency, then it'll be difficult for you to manage your own feelings. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing on a little bit about that. Once you're finally in a community that you think will accept you, you feel as if you're shunned out because everyone is just so different than you. When I first went into my new school, I felt completely shunned out because everyone was so different than me and I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I had to struggle to make new friends, and for the first month of school, I was sobbing and crying every single day because I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And now it's better, but I really wish that it was easier for me to find a place where I could just feel accepted and not completely shunned out, because it took so much time for me to articulate a new personality, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Should I have just kept my personality? I recently came across a TikTok as well where I found a girl crying and sharing her feelings that she does not fit in with anyone from her school. So this girl. Is a girl who loves to dress soft or her own style and is constantly shunned out and stigmatized within her own community. She lives in England and she goes to a British school where everybody there dresses. If you know British schools, they dress up usually with a lot of casual clothing. And when someone is a bit out of style, it just feels quote unquote wrong. When you're a girl, you're constantly bombarded with questions of your own identity in this modern day and age, especially online. It's what aesthetic are you, or what type of zodiac you are. And what's most dangerous about it is it'll determine how people view you. I want to talk about a little bit, especially about zodiacs. Yeah, zodiacs. I feel like they're a really common thing you see, especially on TikTok, right? I mean, I feel like, have you guys ever come across a zodiac TikTok talking about your zodiacs and how they articulate your personality? Yeah, because I feel like I've come across that a lot. Like, there's this one phase I had in 2020 where I was so obsessed with zodiacs. And I was literally so obsessed to the point where I would search up zodiac TikToks and I would articulate my own personality into that zodiac. If they told me that Tauruses were badasses, then I'm going to be a badass. If they told me that Tauruses are tomboys, then I'm going to be a tomboy. And that's how I articulated my own identity or personality. But for some reason, I just feel like I didn't belong. It didn't feel like me. I'm not someone who's a badass. I'm not a tomboy. And if you are a Taurus and you are a badass and a tomboy, then you go, girl. But for me, at least, it was not me. And although I would say this is a teenager thing in general, a lot of videos like these are constantly targeted towards girls. Why is that? Why is identity finding or aesthetic finding or what type of aesthetic you are, what type of person you are, always articulated a lot towards girls? Why? Because I just do feel like in this day and age, especially girls, we're really easily influenced. We want to know who we are, and we're curious creatures. We want to know what makes us us, you know? It's always been like that in society. That's also kind of why beauty standards exist, you know? If you do feel like you're bombarded with the difficulty of finding your own identity, it's completely normal, especially if you're a teenage girl. It's difficult with social media where everyone is constantly bombarding you with questions about your own personality and what you should be. And you're confused because what if you don't want to be like that? What if you want to be yourself? And don't worry, in this segment, we'll be talking a little bit about how to find your own identity, how to articulate your own identity while still keeping some interdependency. So first things first, obviously, identify your interests. Now, this might be a little bit difficult because there's just some people out there who don't know what their interests are. And that's me. That was me in like 2022, 2023. I was so stuck on finding my interests. It was actually horrible because what was my interest? What did I like? And I was just stuck in that phase of trying to find my own personality. And it was so difficult for me. Oh, I felt so shunned out. So, to articulate your interests, I recommend just trying new things. Try new things, even though they're small. And if you can't do them, try things that are around you. Watch a new Netflix movie. Maybe you can become someone who likes Netflix movies and just become a film reviewer. Who knows? When you find your own identity, it's not going to be as easy as ABC. When you're a teenager, you're not going to absolutely find your identity. And when you're an adult, you won't find your identity as easy. You know, because truly, it's not easy to find your identity, even as a teenager or as an adult, because identity is so complex. It's your interests, it's who you are, it's how you speak, it's what you do, it's what makes you so different from others. You know? That's why I really am so cautious, especially when scrolling on social media, because here's the thing. If identity is about being so different, then it's going to be really difficult when the social media day and age where everyone wants to, you know, look, quote unquote, look the same, or quote unquote have the same personality or aesthetic, you know? Because it determines how people view you, once again. So, but then again, yes, there is a struggle in finding your own identity, because here's the thing about finding your own identity. When you finally realize that identity is different, being different than others, being more complex, being quote unquote more complex than others, and just being a whole different person, you're afraid of what you might find. Because let's say you're someone who loves to watch Netflix movies and you want to become a film reviewer. It's going to be difficult to find people around you who don't have the same interests as you, who don't have the same idea as you. You feel as if you're alone in your own thoughts. Because many of us never get to the point of using this prayer. We are scared of what we might find because we're too afraid of being alone. Because, once again, humans are so interdependent on one another that if we're alone, it's one of humans' worst fears. And if you do decide to go to a friend, it's going to be difficult because what worked for them to find their own identity might not work for you, because once again, humans are different. Humans are complex, and nobody is the same as one another. And when you take your friend's advice, it could be rooted so deep to the point where you could be someone who you don't want to be deep down. And that is what humans fear the most in identity search. So, how do I find my own identity? Here's the thing. Identify the things, your interests, and identify the things that you already think about yourself. For example, you think that you're a person who loves to work alone. Well, you think about it again, you know? And then you overanalyze it. Is it true? And if it's true, so what? You know? You don't need to fit in a certain type of aesthetic to find your own personality. You don't need to be a clean girl, okay? You don't need to be a clean girl. You don't need to be a coquette. You don't need to be a you don't need to be taking the personality outside of an aesthetic. You know? So you don't need to inhabit the personality of a clean girl to be able to use the clean girl aesthetic. Because there's just some things about an aesthetic that cannot relate to you. No aesthetic will ever fully relate to you, because you are so complex, you are so different, to the point where if there is an aesthetic that is a perfect replica of you, then that's not an aesthetic anymore. That's you. That's you. Another thing to find your identity is people have the fear of narcissism. Because once you find your identity, you're afraid of narcissisticness. You're afraid that your actions will lead to narcissism. You're afraid that you'll get too cocky or too egoistic. But knowing yourself is the furthest thing from narcissism. Actions considered narcissistic, at least to me, more about hurting or bringing down others or perceiving others as a threat to feel better about your own lack. The opposite of knowing yourself and deeply and being at peace with who you are. Being who you are and knowing who you are as a person is not narcissistic. You are not egoistic. You don't have to bring down others to know yourself, and you shouldn't bring down others to know yourself. The thing about girlhood, especially nowadays, if you've seen, is how to be a girl's girl, which is basically don't bring down other girls, listen to girl code. And I feel as if this type of statement has always been too overanalyzed, and way too many people secretly break girl's girl. And to be fair, girl's girl is very, very, very limited, and there are certain things about being a girl's girl that definitely do not articulate to a lot of people. However, this just shows that every single human is different. What may work for others may not work for you. What may work for me may not work for you. So, another thing is to optimize your environment. If you do realize that your environment around you, especially with now social media, where I feel like a lot of people are so mean. Like even we're breaking girls' code once again. We're breaking basic human decency. I feel like, come on, optimize your environment. If you feel like a video is too toxic for you, click not interested. If your friends are too toxic, don't try to confront them. Please just do slowly distance away. And one last thing, if you do feel like that people around you are not good for you, leave. There's no better way to focus on yourself, to know on yourself, to bring peace within yourself, and find who you are by optimizing your environment. Create a clear path for you, because people who are in your life that create a toxic environment will be your biggest blockage. You will never find peace if you don't clear out your path. Okay? I'm so sorry this episode is so short and feels like it's circling back and forth, but it's only 16 minutes and we're ending the episode here. So thank you so much for watching episode 1, and I hope anybody watching this, or actually listening to this, has a good night, good day, good evening, or whatever weather that is outside your window. Happy winter, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and I hope to see you in episode 2 of my podcast. Bye-bye.